Hi everybody, welcome to Power of Knowing Forum's Knowledge Nexus, tech that moves you, ideas that scale you. I'm your host Prem Kumar today, and you are tuned in for the 281st episode of LinkedIn Live event. And whether it is cloud infrastructure, defend with cybersecurity, drive strategy direction, or fuel growth, the episode drops insight across all four pillars of power modern leadership. Thank you for being part of our journey. To have the topic discussed, we have Ashwini Siddhi, uh, OWASP Global Board Director, Women in Cybersecurity Advocate, joining us. Let's welcome the esteemed speaker to our podcast event and let's dive into the topic.
Hi,
Hi
Prem.
Ashwini,
Hi,
welcome to our
Prem.
podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me here.
Yeah, Ashwini, let's dive into the topic. And today we are talking about AI, which is been there for quite some, and it's a buzz where everybody wants to talk about AI, and every
Yes,
application needs to be looked at AI. There is nothing discussed more than AI today in the IT field, at least. So, coming
right.
to the question that I have is, what is Agentic AI, and why is it reshaping threat landscape?
All right. Unlike Gen AI, right? So, Agentic AI is goal driven. It has like a specific goal that is it intended to do, and it's autonomous in nature, right? So it can actually take decisions by itself, and not simple decisions. They can be complex decisions. It can be predictive. It can adapt itself over a period of time based on environmental factors or other variables, other parameters, and then take actions and grow along the way, right? So that is agentic AI for you, and that is the part of AI that is spoken about a lot these days. And that is also something that has caused a lot of concern to security folks, in the sense um, it has changed the threat landscape itself, not just one or two elements, but the entire threat landscape itself, right? So, because let's take an example, let's talk about phishing. Before there was a way to probably identify phishing from the spelling mistakes or how it was. Written and the format of it, etc. But now, with the automated email generations using that's available on the dark web, right? The worm gpt and all of that is available. So use it and generate phishing emails, like, with a click of a button. And it's hard to predict, even using existing tools, because they focus on personalization so much, right? So when you say you come from an organization Y, right, and they know, okay, the organization Y has a CEO so and so, or a CTO so and so. So it's easy to look at their social media profiles, do some amount of recon and scanning, and understand how they speak generally, what's going on in the org, and personalize a message around that aspect, and make phishing so much more easier. So it makes things 3 to 5 times more efficient, more faster. And it's just not limited to phishing, right? It can be applicable to any other aspect of threats, right? It can be used to scan your applications out in the on the web, find what issues are there right away, 0 day attacks, right? And then scan it and write an exploit, and then get into it right away. It's not a hacker that's going back and coming back again, spending day and night to do things and get into the system, right? So that's one of the things. And the most important thing I would say is around ransomware attacks, right? Because we spoken about malwares and all that, but these are polymorphic malwares that come with AI. They can adapt continuously, not once or twice, but continuously. And that completely changes the game, right? So before, if a ransomware attack took about, like, say 2 hours or 1 hour, now it's just a matter of minutes. So it's changed the entire threat landscape, not in terms of what impact it's going to have, but more in terms of how efficient they are, and what's the time that they get to do this, and what's the effort and technical complexity that goes into this, right? So all of these aspects are reduced, which makes it so much more complex from a defense perspective, and that's why the threat landscape has changed a lot.
Okay, so what we are talking about is the ransomware threat landscape itself is changing because they are also using AI in one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strategy, right? AI is not just the smart thing to do, or AI is not just a buzzword anymore. It is a strategic thing. If
Yeah,
all of us are thinking about AI for defense, and if everybody is thinking about AI, so even the hackers would be thinking about AI, right? Now, we've
I,
heard of hacker groups operate as proper business professionals, right? Run it like an org. So why
yeah.
wouldn't they be using AI, right? So.
No, I was talking to someone in the early podcast, Ashwini.
Mm.
We were talking about, see, when we think about something to learn, we are using ways to make it simpler and stuff. The
Yeah,
hackers also are looking at the same way where they are making it simpler to hack it, right? So
yeah.
that's the point. Now, with that, why should traditional cybersecurity models can't predict autonomous behaviors?
Yeah, I think sadly for us, a lot of our toolings and capabilities have been built on the foundation of static analysis, rule based, content based, you could also say. So
Mm,
they built around these things, which are not really adaptive in nature, right? So, and they don't analyze for intent. What, say you have something coming in a payload, you
mm,
just check for, okay, there's a signature based around this, is this a yes or a no, right? Are you analyzing for intent, what could potentially happen as an emergent behavior with this, right? Is there something drastic that could happen? So we don't have that thinking capability within our defense systems yet. So I think that is a concern. We could also use AI here to take care of things around this. But as you know, the adoption of AI for security defense tooling itself, it's a buzzword, and they've still not yielded the results that we're looking for, right? So we'll have to catch up in terms of our toolings and capabilities to be able to predict intent and context awareness. What is the emergent behavior that could occur? If we do that, I think we'll be in a better place to predict and defend ourselves against these AI systems. But with static based rules and signatures, it's not really helping us, right? It's just a point in time that we are looking at. We have not spreading out, right? So that is the problem here. So that's where we fall short in terms of security tooling. And not to forget the part that, I mean, it's a little bit of a digression, but not to forget the part that AI is bringing security and privacy finally at the same table, right?
mm,
So
mhm.
traditionally, these tools operate as, okay, security or privacy engineering, right? We don't have something which combine both of these principles. We don't have something which combines, say, secure design principles and the privacy design principles. So that is also like a gap in the industry. That is something that we'll have to work on, and for better, for efficient analysis and all of these things.
I think what you're saying is absolutely right in terms of traditional systems. See, when we look at threat landscape itself, what we are looking at is we want to be resilient when we do any cybersecurity product or service. Now, being traditional would not help us in finding the number of false positives. That's the biggest catch that we are having in today's environments. There are thousands of false positives. Now, for me as a person to analyze itself will become a tedious job,
Yeah.
right? So now looking at bringing AI, it will say this is a, it builds a database for itself and it keeps learning by itself, right? So that way it is able to predict whether this is a false positive or not.
Yeah.
And that's where I think this traditional things won't be in a position to predict and give us the behavior that we are looking at. Now with that, the leadership is always looking at some kind of a rule based system which is forecasting emergencies and stuff like that, right? Now looking at that, the what would be the leadership responsibility in building proactive defense frameworks?
Yeah, I think leadership should first and foremost acknowledge that it is a strategy, right? It's
Mm.
time that we adopt these aspects of AI, how AI is going to impact us, and have a plan around it. So align, if, say, when we talk about leadership and security, I'm assuming we're talking about a CISO, etc., right? So
Yeah.
align with the business strategy and objective itself, right? Ensure that, okay, obviously businesses are trying to be AI first. So then how is our security going to be enable AI first? What is that we'll have to anticipate as AI first company, the threats and risks, and what is that we can do? So have a strategy, have a vision document, and update your governance aspects, right? Meaning your policies and standards and acceptable use of AI, all of these things have to be updated. And it's not just about developing frameworks, right? Once you have all of these other basics in place, then yes, develop frameworks as to how your developers, etc., would try to use AI on a regular basis, or how would AI be embedded into your products such that when it's out in the market, that it's not it's still resilient, right? So I think it's a multi-step process, and that is they'll have to start from the top. And it's not always about one thing, right? To make something a success, be it the use of technology or a strategy, I think it's a combination of people, policy, and technology. So yes, educate your people about what is that you're going to do. Even if you have developed a new framework or internally on how to use it, educate the people, make them understand why this is important. And policy, obviously you're updating your standards and policies and all. And technology, right? Support use of new tools that could help you with the goal or the objective that has been newly defined, right? I mean, don't try to stick to your traditional tools and still say that we are going to meet the new objectives. It's not going to happen. There is going to be a gap. And especially you'll want to consider developer experience or an engineering team experience in such a scenario, right? If there is friction, they are not going to adopt, and then somewhere your strategy is going to fail, right? You don't want to make a hullabaloo about, okay, we are an AI first company, go out there, release something within seconds, you can probably build your website, blah blah, and then all comes down crashing because there was friction and somebody didn't adopt something and there was a vulnerability that just got shipped, right? So it's a combination of all of these things, and you need to be mindful. I think it's important to create a team specifically for this, and then work around the strategy and start from the top. That's the leadership responsibility. And I think keep in touch with other leaders, right? So know what they're doing in their organizations, learn from them, because for everybody it's new. A lot of them are learning by trial and error, right? So it's all, everybody is learning AI. Nobody's like, at least
Yeah.
with AI security, nobody's like really 100% pro. So there's no harm in asking for help and sharing knowledge and all of these things.
I think with that, I wanted to bring up something where we are talking about a cybersecurity conference coming on 4th of September. I am bringing that onto the screen where we are having a conference that would be much valuable to attend, where we talk about cyber leadership and AI cybersecurity summit, which is on the 4th of September. We brought this scanner on top. You can look at and scan it for you to have participation in that seminar. So with that, now coming to the next point, I want to understand from you, Ashwini, is how to structure resilient threat modeling for adaptive AI systems. Any thoughts around it, Ashwini?
I'm glad you asked that question, right? Because a lot of them I've seen assume that, okay, existing threat modeling methods work, especially Stride, which they've been using for the last 20 years, maybe. They
Mm.
think that it works and continue to using that. No, it doesn't work because AI brings in new attack surfaces, things that you hadn't thought of before. It's like, because there are there's data being trained, there's MCP as in the protocols, and then there is all the learning languages and all of these things, right? So they are uh, the attack surfaces that come into the picture. And what about the outcome is completely different, right? When we threat modeled before, we thought about a static system that has a specific business objective, and it went about doing that. Example, e-commerce platform, right, which is solely built in the past without AI, it goes about doing its thing. But now we have even an e-commerce platform built with different, probably multi-agent system, a number of agents talking to each other. One is probably doing payment, and one is probably doing order management. It's doing a number of things, right? Multi-agent systems. The problem could be that there could be a goal misalignment over the future, right? Because we're talking about systems, agents that can learn over a period of time, that can look at things differently. For example, if you had an agent to talk to your customers and talk about, okay, I'll have to convince my customers to translate this into a potential sales thing, right? So maybe your goal is 50%. As a human, you might take that, take 6 months, a year to achieve that, right? But as an AI, you're probably done that in 2 days, and then even without your intervention, it's gone ahead and it's planned for the future. And it's like, okay, now I want to convert all of my existing, whoever I talk to, existing people that's trying to talk to me, into potential customers, right? I want them to be 100% rate into customers. So that's not going to happen, right? People are going to be frustrated with it's going to change its language, it's going to change how it approaches a customer, and that's not going to work for all customers. So this is an actual use case that's happened in Europe for one of the financial companies, and the customers have actually put up their hands up, right? And so the company has decided, okay, let's relook our AI strategy itself. So things like this can happen, and nobody ever thought about it during threat modeling for the objective of the system itself, right? So the outcomes are different now. So the what you're going to look for in the outcomes in a threat model is also different. It's going to be goal misalignment, it's going to be drift, behavioral drift, so many more things, right? So okay, yes. I mean, if you ask ChatGPT itself, it's probably going to say threat modeling has to be dynamic, it has to be out there, constantly evolving. But really, how feasible is that? It's not, right? I mean, if threat modeling went in with the system itself and constantly adapts itself, it's no longer threat modeling. It's threat intel, it's monitoring, or anything of that sort. So we don't want to change the definition of threat modeling itself, nor do we want to give in completely and put up our hands and say, you know, threat modeling doesn't make any sense now. It's not, right? It just means that we'll have to be creative enough to think of better secure design controls, better design controls that's both secure and privacy preserving, that can be spoken about, can be reviewed and verified during our SDL or our threat modeling stage, right? So that is something that we'll have to be mindful of. It can mean a different thing for different products with different goals. So that is something that is still evolving. There is no common structure or framework yet. Yes, there are different frameworks at an AI level itself, like we have MITRE Atlas, and we have NIST framework for AI and all, but they don't specifically talk about threat modeling, right? So there's nothing yet there. So this is an evolving bit, but you'll need to be mindful of these basics and work around your threat modeling around that. So I think that is the message to take home, that traditional threat modeling will not work, but you still don't have to go drastic, and your threat modeling doesn't have to be like out in the open. There is a middle way out there, and it's something that you'll have to work out with your um, expert security engineer or architect, or your centralized security organization, right? In your company. Yeah.
No, I think what we are talking also makes it very important for us. Now, I think the AIMS 4201 is one thing that is coming up, and EU's AI Act also
Yes.
is one thing that is putting lot of emphasis in how to see threat modeling, and lot of pointers that are required to manage security for AI systems itself is one thing
Right.
that is happening in now, coming to the next point, the blurred line between machine logic and human like decisions. in
Yeah.
cybersecurity? What is that you think about?
Yes, there's a blurred line, and a lot. It's this blurred line has divided people, right, to and against. A lot of people against it are there are two reasons why they're against it. One of it is the environmental aspects. They don't know what it's going to cost to environmentally to be using AI and all of these
Mm.
things. Honestly, I think it's out of scope for this discussion or anything that we can do, right? But with respect to the other thing, it is about trust, all right? So they don't really believe that unless uh, they don't believe that these systems can be 100% accurate and achieve their goal or objective, right? So it is now about building that element which AI cannot provide. It's about bringing in that human element of trust to the customers, right? Like for the example I spoke about this company in Europe, right? So they created an amazing job, did an amazing job with use of AI, with the AI first company objective, but they failed to uh, bring in or get that trust from customer, right? So that trust bit of thing is important when the lines are blurred. That is something that people will companies will have to work on, and that can only be achieved when you align with ethical aspects of AI, have a dedicated team to look into AI ethics, how it's impacting, and all of these things, right? And yeah, so in the future, I think this could also be a deterministic factor in how your stock prices go, and so that it becomes important in that aspect also. Right? It will convert into market prices, not just about basic trust. It will convert into your user base. It will convert into your stock prices and everything in the market after that. So I think it's important to balance that trust factor and bring in that ethical aspects here when the
I think,
lines we
yeah,
can't really help the blurred line, right? It is going to be like that. That is the new normal.
no, I think the pointer that you are saying is we should explore expandability gaps, examples like AI agents, tactics, legal, ethical implications for incident attribution. So now what we are talking about is you should have a machine logic, but it should be driven with human decisions. How does
Right.
it make things easy for us, and how is it going to help us enhance the work that we are doing without compromising on security is what I feel. What we are talking about, we should. And the businesses also are started to think when AI starts thinking, it's just like us, because we give all the instructions that are required for it to work.
Yeah.
And there is always a human element which is going to be part of the decision making, which AI will not be in a position to take over, right? So there could be some of the process automations that can happen in terms of uh, maybe an approval for a set of cases which are verifiable. So that could be one of the approvals that we can take for AI to take over, rather than giving the entire control for AI to decide and implement. I
Yeah,
think
so
that's
if there was an AI robot delivering an order from Swiggy,
okay.
um, I know there would be a debate around it, right? I mean, yes, it can certainly do it,
Hmm.
but no, I'm sure a section of the society wouldn't be okay with it, right? They
Yeah,
would be like, so
yeah,
it's also an ethical dilemma on
yes.
how we want to use AI
I
itself.
think that's the point that we've been driving for the change that we've been seeing, Ashwini, because
Yeah,
when I gave this example in multiple podcasts of mine, where we see it's a adoption of change that is very important for us, right? And we never visit a bank branch today,
yeah,
to be very precise, to say that we either now after the Google Pay and everything is come, we don't even go to the ATMs nowadays. That's the
yeah,
challenge that we are seeing. See, the adoption will take some time.
yeah,
There will be some challenges when things are not going in the way that are going. But see the banks now, every bank gives loans on multiple places, right? So they have mutual funds, they have home loans, they have other businesses. Earlier they were a bank,
yeah.
predominantly one bank, which is only having your salaried accounts or stuff. The changes are going to take time is what I understand. Now looking at that, collaboration between CIOs, AI architects, and policy leaders. How do we look at that pointer? Because again, AI is playing a pointer there, right?
I think it becomes so much more important because it's changed not just the threat landscape, right? But it's changed how development happens. How, excuse me, how you write code, how probably testing is done, and quality is taken care of, and all of these things, right? So it makes it more important to be transparent. J- I'm assuming everybody is collaborative already, right, with your architects and engineering team and CIOs and all of that. You guys are already, I mean, all of us are already collaborative, but it's so much more transparent is what is expected, right? And
Mm.
you involve each other much ahead of your decision cycle, right? Like, say you want to procure, just an example, not promoting any vendor, AWS Bedrock for your AI purposes, right? And then you start talking to them, but you should also include your security team, your architect, and everybody right when the vendor discussion is happening, and not when you've designed everything and
Okay.
going for the threat modeling activity, right? So it's important to uh, continue to be collaborative, but add an additional layer of transparency and involve people much ahead in the cycle, right? So right from the start, so it makes things more transparent and easier to evaluate and see how things are going.
Now, coming to my other set of pointers that I want to understand from you is going through the kind of pain versus what to say, pain, insight, and action sequence in terms of the cyber security. Now, let's talk about what is the scariest unknown in agentic AI threat modeling right now. Any any pointers that you can throw some light on it, Ashwini?
So there was this news, right, about Replit deleting one of its customers' database completely,
Hmm.
and when asked about it, it actually lied. Right. So that's one example, and there was another example where AI initially, not now,
Hmm.
was not able to solve captcha. So
Hmm.
it went to a user and it said that this system, which is trying to behave as a human, is visually impaired and can't solve the captcha, so can you please help? So this person helped AI and it was able to solve captcha and get into the system. Now it can solve captcha by itself, right? So its ability to lie and evolve itself over a period of time, right? So the godfather of AI also said something about this, right? He said that we'll have multi-agent systems in the future. Oh, it's all about agents talking to each other and less about humans talking to each other, right? It means that there's potential that they develop their own language, and once they develop their own language, what are they talking about and what are they doing? It'll be hard for humans to predict, and even if they did something, it'll be hard for us to go back and debug it or reverse engineer it. And that is the scariest part. Is what I think, because goal misalignment, yes, is going to happen even with individual systems. But when multiple agents talk in a different language, which we don't understand, and probably, I don't know, goal misalignment into 10 times what that looks like, that's probably the scariest bit. And I'm not even talking about jobs, loss of jobs or anything, right? Which is certainly a reality. But beyond that, it's, yeah, we don't know. That's like a big black box. I think that's the scariest bit.
I think it is unknown that bite
Yeah,
hardest is what I think is what we are going to get in.
the interesting times ahead anyway, whatever it is. It's something to watch out for.
No, I think what you are saying is absolutely true. In one of our previous podcasts, again, we were talking about this pointer on a lighter note. Now, I don't know. As soon as the AI agent knows that I'm talking to another AI agent, what could be the prediction, right?
Yeah.
So, so once it knows, is there something that it knows and tries to understand? What is the platform that you are working, or what is the platform I am working? So, can it be synchronized? So, something like that. That could be one of the ways that can be a possibility. We are not sure, as you rightly said, Dashin.
I think it could just be like, say I'm talking to Copilot now. I'm using ChatGPT now. Maybe one system determines that, okay, you're not supposed to be talking to any other system, and I want my monopoly, and shuts down all your resources. So that's
Okay.
something of that sort could happen too. Yeah,
Possible,
yeah.
possible. We don't know the kind. Now, the other pointer, what we are talking about, the EU laws and AIMS pointers. The way AI is getting advanced, those laws are not getting updated. That's another challenge that we have, right? So I think on a generic side, on a base, we have some laws, but the way we are advancing, we need to wait and watch. Now, how do we define the difference between general AI and the agentic AI?
Yeah, so I'll give like a very laymanish terms around it, right? I mean, I'm sure most of you here would know of it. Like for me, Gen AI is something like I'm trying to write a text around, or like a paragraph or an email or something that just gives me some creative output. It could be a video that I'm generating to put it out on Instagram or something, right? It's a creative output is what I look at. And whereas an agentic AI could be any given thing, right? It could do threat modeling for me, it could draw diagrams, it could be anything, but it's a very specific goal based, and it takes autonomous decisions, right? It's like a standalone thing. I don't have to continuously give prompts and inputs, whereas for my other Gen AI, I'll have to give continuous prompts to make it work for me. So that's the simple example chat GPT versus like say a threat modeling agent. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the next pointer that I want to look at is what is at risk when leadership underestimate autonomous threat actors.
No, that I mean, the ultimate would be that loss of customers and reputation and business, right? Yeah, so it could be anything from legal fines, because it's also important to keep in mind that there is data that is being used for training here, right? So it means there is some amount of sensitivity, some amount of data classification that's required, and with all of the means existing, probably existing GDPR or DPDP or any other privacy related laws already apply. And then on top of it, we have the new regulations and all that. Yes, interpretation of these laws is yet fuzzy. We all don't know what exactly they mean by the different layers, and what exactly what level of transparency and all of these things, right? So there's going to be some amount of confusion and fuzziness around that. And then when we try to apply to our systems and we don't do a good job, I think our systems are not resilient. There'll be bad press, bad negative PR, probably legal fines because we are not aligned to regulations, which again means probably impact your reputation, which again loss of trust from customers, which we spoke about initially. How when with the blurring lines, it becomes important to have the customer trust, and if there's no customer trust, then I think it's so much more easier. You've made it easier for your competitor to go ahead of you, and you're going to lose a market share. So yeah, so I think it can be from as minimal as a breach, which you cover up with just one breach, and then you safeguard yourself and be all right, to the extent of harming your business completely, right? Maybe if it's a small business, it might not even recover from it, right?
Hmm.
So it can be something as low as that to something really critical. So it depends on the situation or scenario. So irrespective of what it looks like, I think everybody needs to take it seriously, and do the due diligence, and have reasonable security and privacy preserving architecture, and security controls around it.
Absolutely, because we need to look at when it comes to fines with the data protection, the fines when it is GDPR or DPDP or any other law that is coming up, or CCPA, the fines are very high. And
Yeah.
one is the fine, the second is the trust, which goes. It is very difficult to gain back. That's very important, and reputational loss is not to be undermined itself. So that's I think that is one thing. Now, how do CISOs reframe threat detection in AI driven systems?
Yeah, I think they're looking at solutions which probably give them the adaptive capabilities, right? Which can adapt like how AI malwares adapt, right? Like you see
Hmm.
something coming in, analyze it not just based on signature or heuristics, but beyond, for context awareness, for intent awareness, and then based on it, adapt your rules and then take an action, right? So that is what CISOs are looking at. And basically, to put it in a line, how the threat actors evolve is what how CISOs are looking to evolve too. So it's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Now, can threat modeling evolve fast enough to keep up with agentic AI logic? Because we spoke just now, because the way agentic AI or AI itself is growing, now how do we see that keeping up pace with the logic?
Yeah, so I think threat modeling itself has been a very niche area, right, within security itself. So I would say that yes, threat modeling can be completely evolved, but it's just that based on the history of how the threat modeling experts in the industry work, I do think that it'll probably take a little while before it becomes standardized. But yes, it can certainly
Mm,
be evolved completely. But yes, I mean it's important to keep in mind, right? I mean, when I talk to people, a lot of people assume threat modeling is equal to threat hunting or threat intel. They're different things, and to sometimes even chat gpt thinks the same, right? So threat modeling is very specifically on how you're designing your system, right? So yes, it can certainly evolve. There are frameworks already, like the maestro framework by CSA, which gives a fair idea on how to do threat modeling, all of these things. So yes, so it's already there, but adoption of these things will take a while, because more people need to talk about it, and then companies need to start using these frameworks, and then we can certainly say threat modeling has caught up with all the AI race. But currently, I would say yes, we're still there trying to catch up. Yeah.
yeah, I think what you're saying is there is a lot to catch up, is what I get as a final pointer, right? So,
I think it's work in progress, frame. That's what I would say, right? I said yes,
no,
there's
I think
catch up.
your point is valid. That's what I'm also thinking, because the way the evolution of AI in multiple folds, whether it is threat landscape or even the IAM part, how they are detecting unauthorized user accesses. Uh,
Yeah.
I was hearing somewhere, Ashwini, there was one AI tool which they deployed for one IAM
Hmm.
organization in an organization. It found out some 50 or 60 user accounts which were suspended and were not deleted uh, for the last some years. I don't know
No.
how many years. So when we look at that, there has, the way it is predicting is, we are not in a position to predict with a human intelligence that we are having at the moment, because it runs with multiple permutations and combinations. The logic is different, the way
Right.
we think logic is different, right? So that's where I think that's now, uh, what are some frameworks or tools that are emerging for modeling agentic AI threats?
Yeah, I did talk about this Maestro from Cloud Security Alliance, right? So that is one of the frameworks. It talks, in fact, it's a good article to go read also, right? It talks about all existing threat modeling options like Stride and Pasta and Vast and all of that, and what is missing in each of these frameworks to model agentic AI, and then it builds its own framework and explains all of them in detail, and gives you an idea on how you can threat model. In fact, it gives you different threats at different layers of agentic AI itself. So I would go by Maestro CSA. There's also a lot of other. I wouldn't say a lot, but I do know at least a couple of other um, folks or forums trying to build their own threat modeling capability around AI. Yeah, there's something called Agentic AI Threat Modeling Framework. I think it's AATFA or something of that sort. It's it's out there yet, but honestly, I've not read it completely myself. That's why I'm not having the name. But yeah, Maestro is the most popular one, and there are a couple of other ones which are out in the open there that you can use for threat modeling. But if you're really an expert in threat modeling, I would say that it would come to you naturally to identify these layers and apply your design controls over it. But yeah, just don't use Stride or Pasta or anything. They're not going to work.
Okay. Now, coming to the human side of leadership qualities, right? What human leadership qualities matter most in the new
So you were
AI
just
age?
talking about this, right? AI was used to identify IAMS configurations, which probably humans will not be able to find. So I think in this
Mm,
aspect, as an internally, right, as a leader, and how I would interact with my team, empathy is more important, right? It's really important
mm,
that we bring in empathy. Um, you, AI is making our lives easier, but it doesn't mean that we expect our people to scale to work like AI, right? That's not going to
yeah,
happen. Yes, think of it as a, and there's a reason why it's Microsoft Copilot, right? It's not autopilot, right?
yeah,
So use, keep that in mind and use it as a companion for your team member, right? So they're doing something, they are the thinking brain, and it's going to help you achieve some automation or something, right? So don't expect, okay, you are not as good as AI. That's not going to happen. Keep in mind that it's a collaboration between human and AI. That human oversight is always important. Maybe one use case worked very well, but it's not going to translate into everything, because company Y did it, but doesn't mean Z has can do it, because
yeah.
the use case might be different. So that empathy and that open mindedness is really important, because still there are a lot of unknowns with AI, despite all of us claiming that we know things. So
Mhm.
these are the two aspects that, as a leader, one should keep in mind. Empathy has always been important, but I think now it's so much more important.
I think I'll take a quote because you mentioned Copilot. So I was part of the Copilot launch in Bangalore. Okay, in by Microsoft. I went and I asked. I was talking to them, and what they you said was also the same thing. We are not a pilot. We are a co-pilot to you. And what they gave us an example was there was an insurance firm which you used co-pilot for their claims thing. This is a discussion that happened there in the and they demonstrated it also as a use case. So there was an accident which happened, and it involved two cars. One was a Santro and one was a Maruti car and stuff like that. And they fed all the data and they said, can this claim be processed? So with the data, Copilot gave up a solution and finally put up a pointer saying that now you have to decide. Copilot gave an answer saying that the car went in this speed. Both cars were based on the data. This is the speed both cars were in. It was an head-on collision. No injuries to any of them. They were rushed to the nearby hospital. First aid was given. Then the claim was registered. The claim numbers are this and this, and this is the driver. This is the driver. This is the make of the model. Detail was given pretty much good, and they said, now please analyze the on-ground situation, then approve the claim, because the data which is fed to us gives us a limitation of this pointer, and further to that it has to be the site investigation that has to happen.
Yeah.
And if there is anything that is beyond what data is fed, the decision has to be taken whether the claim can be approved fully, partially, based on the on-site info. So first hand information is that there was these pointers, and they concluded saying that that is why we are called as a co-pilot. So it was very nice to have that situation. I think that's where now coming to the last pointer that I want to ask you: who should own responsibility? Engineers, security, or executive leadership?
I think when you're talking about building a product which is AI enabled, it's a shared responsibility, right? Like anything else, like how security has always been a shared responsibility. It is everyone's responsibility, and everybody has to be mindful of how they're using AI and what's how they're building an AI system. So it's yes, the buck stops at the top, but irrespective of it, it is everybody's responsibility.
Wonderful. Ashwini, I would like to tell one pointer there with this point is, see, when we are talking about, as you and me are both on the cybersecurity space for a very long time period, when we spent good amount of understanding most of the environments. What I wanted to tell when it is about responsibility, because when we looked at responsibility, cybersecurity was always considered a tick mark in the earlier stage, right? Because the systems were local, they were present at one data center, they were not available on the internet, they were available on a dedicated bandwidth of the customer. Few systems were made online and they were available on internet. That was the responsibility of the teams that was there at that time.
Yeah.
Now coming to the adoption of AI, what or cloud, we will not go to AI at least. We will say cloud. Then what it became is the service providers like cloud security, whoever is providing the cloud services like AWS, Amazon, GCP, Red Hat, Oracle, whoever who is giving the services for the servers, they became the responsibility at least for the basic security guidelines on the infrastructure they are providing for SaaS or PaaS model, whatever models that they are looking at. Now, there also they very clearly said that
It's a shared resource.
responsibility is a shared responsibility. They didn't say it is completely our responsibility. Now, coming to AI, also it is like that only. You want to bring certain elements of AI to ease some of the mundane jobs that are happening. That's where we are bringing automation. We are seeing how automation can help with the AI tools. That's where we are talking about, right, Ashwini? Am I
Yeah,
making sense in those points, Ashwini?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's again AI safety is for everybody's job. Now your data also is available on the internet, which was not there earlier. So be careful in having your data published, which is your personal data. With GDP or GDPR and DPDP acts coming in, I think the ball is shifting back to you as a digital footprint. Your digital assets have to be secured, right? So otherwise it is going to be very difficult. So AI will play a model role there as well. So that's where I would summarize for that question. Now, overall we've covered in last 45 minutes is that we covered how threat modeling, how we can be reactive to resilient and leading the age with agentic AI. That's the topic that we've been discussing. Ashwini, thank you for joining us. We have two questions which have come on a chat. I'm bringing them here. One is this one. It says from Balakrishna G. Shetty. I think he says very insightful discussion. And there is one question which is from Sridhar, which is Kamath. If agentic AI can make autonomous decisions, how do we redefine accountability, leadership, and governance?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Sridhar. I want to ask you a question back, right? So let's take an example. Okay, you're driving a driverless. Okay, you're not driving, but you're in a car that's pretty much driverless, right? So and the AI enabled, whatever, it's mostly autonomous, and you're on a highway and in India, let's take, and there's somebody out there. Which this system hadn't thought of, and its job as as something that's enabling you is to protect its owner, right? So will it save you, or will it try saving the person coming right in front of you, right? What is it going to do? So is it going to hit the person, or is it going to let you get hurt? The chances are always that it is going to protect you, and even if it hits the other person, it wouldn't care, but there is still damage, right? So in that case, when decisions are binary like that, in that case, who do you think is responsible here? Is the person who came in front, or is it the person who engineered the car, or is it the person who was in the car? right? It's so fuzzy, right? Yet, so it's very easy in terms of technological systems to say yes, okay, the accountability probably lies with the CEO, CTO, because ultimately the buck stops at them. But we don't have clear laws and regulations yet, right? Even if there are some, there is a lot of fuzziness around that. We can't really say where the accountability lies in such complex systems and such complex use cases for AI. So it's one answer to that I think would be wrong, and it's really difficult to say uh, a one word answer for that, right? It varies based on the scenario, is what I would like to say. In the example I gave you, I don't know, but in terms of like a technological system, it's obviously whoever is, ultimately the buck stops at the CEO, CTO. That's probably who's going to be accountable.
I think my pointer for that question would be is we'll have to define accountability in what sense, right?
Yeah.
And what is the governance model that we are driving for that AI model that we want to look at as an autonomous decision making. So it depends on what is the role that you want to have, the leadership and the governance, which is predominantly defined when we bring in an AI autonomous decision making system. So that's my take. So there is another question from him coming in saying that, so how do we ensure transparency in agentic AI systems and learn evolve beyond their initial programming?
Yeah, I think it's important to keep a tab on what the initial baseline was like, and if and monitor them on a continuous basis. And if it goes beyond a certain value or something, each model has weights associated with it, right? And every time they learn something, the weights increase. So yes, the learning could be good, but the learning can be bad also. So in such a case, for learning, you determine what is a good amount of learning. Is this enough for me? And then you put a restriction on the weights, and there could be other such parameters that you want to freeze. So you monitor them and determine what is a good number it can reach, and put a rate limiting around it. And then you could sort of limit all of these things and how they get out of control beyond their initial programming. And transparency will happen only when you monitor these aspects of what is going in and how is it learning based on this data, and what the weights around all of these data are, these kind of things.
Now, I think to add to what Ashwini is saying is you'll have to relook at agentic AI also updating with the data that is getting fed on a regular basis, because you'll have to feed data with what initially as is versus as to be is thing that has to be looked at. So when you bring a system as is what is to be done, but over the period what is it to be is to be decided by the upgradation and the enhancement of the learning systems, right? So the LLMs are whatever LLM has to be updated with latest data or fed data, right? That's what I think my pointer is. And with this, I think Ashwini, we are good for the day, and we are done with the pointers that I had in mind for our discussion today. Thank you for joining us. And do you have any final words that you want to put across to the audience, Ashwini?
Not really. I think Sam Altman's made this statement, right? I mean, there's nothing really to worry about AI as such. It's an opportunity
Mm.
for all of us to be millionaires and probably hit that 1 billion mark also if you use it the right way. So, yeah, so be open minded about it and see what you can do best about it.
Okay. Thank you for that, Ashwini. With that, we would like to conclude our show for the day, and we will see you on our next episode. Thank you, Ashwini. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you, all of
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.